Is this a scene you've seen played out in your own life? Have you ever been in this same spot? Like someone who should have stood by you, they left. Someone who should have loved you, they lied to you. Someone who should have protected you, they broke your trust. And maybe today you're sitting in the aftermath of that betrayal thinking, God, why did this happen to me? I wanna make sure you hear this. I wanna make sure I say this clearly. People may have failed you, but God hasn't. Welcome everyone, so glad you're here. I want to give a shout out to our Aliante location, our Summerlin location, Sunrise Mountain and Kingman. We are so glad you are joining us as well. Central Henderson, can we give it up for all of our Central family watching from around the world? You know, this last week, I was thinking to myself, have you ever had one of these days where you just want to call it early? First thing in the morning, you just want to go get back into bed, go back to sleep, just try again to start over the next day. I had one of these days. It all started with a terrible night's sleep. Our youngest daughter, Cosette, she loves to still sometimes crawl in bed with mom and dad, which is sweet. You get your 11-year-old to still cuddle with you. I know that won't be around very long, so I try to take advantage of it, but around 2:30 a.m., Sweet turned into survival because her elbow was in my back, her foot was in my rib cage. At one point, she just full on slapped me across the face while she's sleeping. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not getting any sleep. By 5 a.m., I'm I just need to get up for the day, just get my day started. I'm not sleeping anyways. Let's just take advantage of the early morning. I go downstairs. We're out of coffee. No sleep, no coffee. It's a bad start. So I go upstairs because I'm thinking I'm gonna have to go out for coffee. I go upstairs to get ready. When I'm upstairs getting ready, I'm looking in my closet. We are behind on laundry. There's nothing to wear, even though there's plenty to wear, but I'm still not inspired by anything. So I just end up grabbing a shirt, grabbing a pant. I don't even know if it was a great combo. I didn't care. I walk back downstairs. When I get downstairs, the dogs have gotten into the trash. Now there's wrappers everywhere. There's coffee grounds. The last of whatever coffee grounds are on the ground. There's a banana peel suctioned to the side of the fridge. And I've got to clean all this trash up before I can do anything. Start cleaning the trash up. And it's at that moment I realized that our oldest daughter, I won't say her name, but I think she knows who she is. She didn't let the dogs out that morning. So they have this trash buffet. And then they go to the living room and treat that like it's the bathroom. So now I've got to clean up this trash and the dog's stuff and get all that cleaned up, get it all in a trash bag. I'm walking outside to the outside trash cans, just thinking when you get back inside, just reset. It's okay. The second you put this trash in that trash can, let this just be the start to a brand new day. So I open up that trash can, I drop the bag in there, I look back, and there is a trail of red syrup liquid that has followed me. Apparently these trash bags had a hole in them. I don't know what the liquid was, but it went across my kitchen, all the way across the concrete, the patio, all the way to the trash cans. But worst of all, it got all over my white shoes. I have a rule. You protect your white shoes at all costs. I don't even like a smudge on my white shoes. So now I'm mad at the dogs. I'm mad at my daughters. I'm mad at the trash. I'm mad at my shoes. I'm mad at everything. I'm thinking all I want to do is just go get back in bed and just try again tomorrow. I quit. I'm done. I don't know if you've ever had a day like that. If you've had maybe a year like that. You're just get me through 2025. I just want to try 26. But have you ever found yourself in a season where nothing seems to be working out? And then you start to wonder, where is God in all of this? Thinking if God is good, if God is with us, then why do we go through seasons when it feels like everything is falling apart? And maybe you've been there. Maybe you're here today and you're there right now. And this weekend, we're kicking off a new series called God Meant It for Good. And it's all built around this truth that even when life gets messy, even when life gets hard, even when people try to do their worst, that God can still do his best. And over these next 6 weeks, we're gonna be walking through a story of a man named Joseph. And Joseph's story, his life, it's an absolute roller coaster. It's ups, it's downs, it's a wild story, a crazy story. It's a true story. It's not a fairy tale, it's not fictional. This story actually happened, and it's filled with betrayal and injustice and heartbreak. It's got confusion, it's got murder plots, it's got sibling and family drama that's gonna make you thankful for your family, that all they really argue over is just where you're going to dinner, right? Like that's the peak of the drama for us. But yet through all the hardship, we see a picture of what God can do with a broken life. You know, something fascinating I find about Joseph's story is that it takes up a quarter of the book of Genesis. So 25% of the opening book of the Bible is dedicated to this one guy's story. Now, why is that? Why is so much real estate given to Joseph? Well, one of the reasons is because Joseph's story, it doesn't just tell us what faith looks like, it shows us what faith looks like. It shows us what it looks like to trust when you're betrayed. It shows us to stay faithful when we feel forgotten. It shows us to believe God is good when life feels anything but good. And Joseph's life is a living picture of what it means to walk by faith when you can't yet see the ending. His story, it's proof that what people mean for harm, God can still use for good. So for the next few weekends, if you've ever walked through something unfair, or maybe you feel all alone in life, you feel overlooked, maybe you feel stuck in a place that you shouldn't be, or you feel heartbroken by people who should have had your back, well, this series is for you, and today we're gonna be starting in Genesis chapter 37. This is where the whole story begins. This is the start, and it all begins with one key theme. It all begins with one key word, and that word is betrayal. Betrayal. Betrayal, if you think about it, betrayal isn't something that you get from your enemies, right? I mean, enemies, you almost expect an attack from enemies. You're looking out for an attack from an enemy. But betrayal cuts deeper, because betrayal comes from the ones you trusted the most, the ones that you believed would stand with you, not turn their back on you. And that's where Joseph's story begins, not with a fight against outsiders, but with heartbreak and betrayal inside his own family. Now Joseph, he's one of 12 brothers, and he's not the baby of the family, he's not the youngest, but he's number 11. Which when you have 10 older brothers, I think you can pretty much consider yourself one of the babies of the family. I grew up with 2 brothers, and boys do what boys do. We wrestled, we fought, we did all those things. So imagine having 10 older brothers. And right from the start, the Bible tells us that Joseph was different than all his other brothers. So we're gonna look at Genesis 37, verse 3. When we get to that red word, say it out loud with us. It says, now Israel, now just for clarification, Israel here is not the nation of Israel, it's not the people of Israel. Israel is Jacob's new name. God gave Jacob and Esau, Jacob who wrestled with God, he gave him a new name, Israel. And it says, now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons. Sorry, I should have given you a chance to say that red word with us. I went right past it. We'll do it again here in a second. Now he loved them more than any other kid. That verse isn't very subtle, right? Like it's pretty obvious. Does Jacob have a favorite? Yes, his favorite is Joseph. And everybody knew that. Joseph's brothers especially knew that. And what Jacob did is he gave Joseph this coat, this robe. It was a coat of many colors. And this robe, it was the symbol of favor. It was a symbol of and a sign of future authority. It basically was Jacob, his father, saying like, Joseph, you don't have to be like your brothers. You have my favor. You have position in this family. You're a leader. You're to manage. You're to be in charge. Now Joseph, he's only 17. He's still figuring life out. He's got dreams. He's got dreams. God gives him big dreams, prophetic dreams. One of the dreams, it was funny, he's in this field with his brothers and they're harvesting grain, and all of a sudden Joseph's bundle of grain stands up taller than all his brothers' bundles of grain. And then his brothers' bundles, they start bowing down to Joseph's bundle. So what does Joseph do with this information? Well, he wakes up and goes and tells his older brothers, of course, right? Like a younger brother thing to do. Like, hey, bros, you're not gonna believe it. This dream I had last night, my bundle of grain, it stood tall like a boss. Your grain, it all bowed down to mine. It's awesome, right? Can't imagine this is the best family breakfast conversation. I mean, he probably should have kept this to himself, but he's just excited. He had to tell them. And I get it. This is a little brother thing to do. This is a little bit immature, but honestly, Joseph isn't trying to boast in this moment. He's not trying to rub it in. He's not trying to make his brothers jealous. He's just 17. He's young. He has no idea how deep his brother's resentment is for him. He has no idea what sharing those dreams were going to cost him. So Joseph has the robe. Joseph has his father's favor, the authority. He has these God-given dreams, and his brothers, well, they now have jealousy. And in Genesis 37:4, it says that they hated Joseph and they could not speak a kind word to him. They hated him. This is the environment that Joseph is living in. He's carrying these dreams from God while being surrounded by resentment from the people closest to him. And that's where we pick up the first truth from Joseph's story. If we want to know how God can use the word betrayal, use the betrayal in our own lives and turn it to good, well, the first truth that we have to remember is that people's betrayal can't cancel God's calling. People's betrayal can't cancel God's calling. A couple of years ago, I woke up on a mission just to get stuff done. Like I just started texting and emailing and getting back to people. I'm just rapid firing off texts, like just working myself through a to-do list. And the responses that I'm getting back from people, they start to shock me. They start to surprise me because they're like putting ha-ha or LOL or like putting laughing emojis on my text. And I'm thinking, what? That wasn't funny. Like I wasn't trying to be funny. That wasn't a joke. That was a serious text. And when I went back to read what I wrote, when I tried to write the word hey, like hey Brandon, like to start, it changed it automatically to hey there, hi there, ho there, Brandon. Or when I tried to write the word okay, it kept putting okily dokily. And I cannot figure out why it's doing this. I had no idea those were the texts that I was sending. So now I'm researching, I'm Googling, like, why is my phone betraying me? What software update did Apple put out that is messing me up here? I'm trying to figure out how to disable it. And as I'm researching, I'm seeing that the only way that this could happen is you have to go into the settings of your phone. You have to tell it that every time you write the word okay, you want it to write okily dokily instead. So then I start thinking about what day it is. And it's April 1st. And it dawns on me, I've told you before, my wife is an April Fool's fanatic. She lives for the day. She plans for the day. She thinks her April Fool's pranks are some spiritual gifting that she has to share with the world. And so my sweet wife, in the middle of the night, while her trusting husband is asleep, goes into his phone, goes into the settings, changes these words to say these ridiculous words. So it wasn't Apple that betrayed me. It wasn't my phone. It was my own wife that betrayed me in that moment. And I'm telling you, church, these April Fool's jokes are getting out of hand. You need to be concerned for me. But I know that's a lighthearted story about betrayal. But I also know that for some of us, betrayal isn't so lighthearted, right? We've experienced betrayal on a deeper level, where it's not a prank, it's not a joke. Betrayal that brings real pain from someone you trusted, from someone you counted on. Maybe it wasn't a knife in the back, but it was still betrayal that came through silence. Betrayal that came through a broken promise, betrayal that came through distance. And now you're left standing there hurt, confused, in pain, wondering, how did I even get here? Well, that's where Joseph finds himself. As we pick up the story, what we're gonna see is it says one day that his father, he sent him on a mission. He sent him to go find his brothers in a nearby town that they were in, that they were working the field, and to report back to him what his brothers were doing, what was going on. Remember, Jacob had put Joseph in this position of some authority, and so we see in verse 18 exactly what happened. It says, when Joseph's brothers saw him coming, they recognized him in the distance. And as he approached, they made what? Plans to kill him. Here's Joseph, just doing what his father asked. His brothers see him coming and they think this is our opportunity to kill him. These weren't enemies hiding in some bushes. These were his own brothers, his blood, his family, people that should have had his back. These should have been people looking out for their little brother, should have protected him, and now they're making plans to kill him. Now Joseph's oldest brother, Reuben, he steps in. He keeps his brothers from murdering their younger brother. He suggests something different. They all want to do something. They're still mad. So they strip Joseph of his colorful robe, his robe of authority, and they throw him into this deep pit. The Bible tells us that this was this cistern that was all dried up. It normally would hold water. It was all dried up. It was deep. Joseph couldn't get out of it, and they threw their little brother in it. Why? Because they hated him. They hated his favor. They hated his dreams. And Joseph had no idea how much they hated him. He had no idea what was coming his way. So now Joseph suddenly in this pit, betrayed and abandoned by the people he thought that he could trust. Does this feel familiar to anyone? Is this a scene you've seen played out in your own life? Have you ever been in this same spot? Like someone who should have stood by you, they left. Someone who should have loved you, they lied to you. Someone who should have protected you, they broke your trust. And maybe today you're sitting in the aftermath of that betrayal thinking, God, why did this happen to me? I want to make sure you hear this. I want to make sure I say this clearly. People may have failed you, but God hasn't. In fact, sometimes the betrayal is the very thing that sets God's purpose into motion. Meaning what others meant to bury you, God will use to plant you. And what we're going to see here in just a second is that Joseph didn't die in that pit. That pit, that moment, that became a doorway to everything God had in store for him. Joseph just couldn't see it yet. We see a similar promise in the Bible in Romans 8:28. Look at what it says. It says, and we know that God causes what? Everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. Everything to work together, not just the good moments, not just the victories. He still uses the betrayal. He uses the heartbreak. He uses that moment that knocked the wind out of you, that puts you flat on your face. He can use everything. So here's the challenge. Don't let someone else's betrayal convince you that your story is over or that God has turned his back on you. Betrayal doesn't cancel your calling. Oftentimes, it confirms it. And we're gonna see that the pit wasn't Joseph's final residence. It doesn't have to be ours either, which is our second truth and what God can do with the betrayal in our lives. And that is that the pit isn't the end, it's the middle. Meaning if you feel like you're in a pit right now, you feel abandoned, betrayed, maybe you feel like it's rock bottom. What if we saw it not as punishment, but as preparation? What if the thing that feels like a setback is actually God setting something better up for us? Everyone loves like a good before and after, right? We love good before and after photos. I love good home renovation before and after photos, especially the exterior of homes. I have a couple here. This is a before. This looks like this just needs to be demoed, whatever house, whatever yard this is. But here's the after here. This is amazing what they did with the space. I mean, they just absolutely transformed it. Our girls at their school, there's a mom that she's an influencer and she does home renovations, but she did a renovation, she did a restoration on an old Bronco. This is the Bronco she got before, and then this is the Bronco or the same Bronco, her transformation of that Bronco, which is incredible. I want that Bronco. Or there's this before here, and then here's the after right here. Which, what's funny about that before is that is before laser hair removal. This is the after. So if you've ever wondered if laser hair removal works, I would stay away from it. But you ever notice how we love before and after stories? We love seeing the big transformation, but we often don't talk about the middle. And social media, it's full of glow-ups and transformations and makeovers and renovations. We love to see the before, we love to see the dramatic after, but no one's posting pictures of the messy middle. Like when the kitchen's half demoed. When your gym progress, it still looks like pain. When you're covered in sweat and just trying to make your way through a workout without crying. No one shares the story when the story doesn't make sense yet because the middle's uncomfortable. The middle feels like nothing good is going to happen. And that's exactly where Joseph finds himself next. His brothers have turned on him. They were so full of jealousy. They're so full of anger. They threw him into this pit. He's got no way out. They were ready to kill him, but instead they decided to just leave him there. Leave him in this pit to die. And while Joseph is trapped in the darkness, what do? Well, they sit down to have some lunch. It's just another day for them. They just start making themselves sandwiches while Joseph's life's hanging in the balance while he's confused. But then off in the distance, they see this caravan of traders coming their way. And that's when they make a new decision, one that will change Joseph's life forever. Check out this verse that we can see exactly what happened. It says, so when the Ishmaelites, who were Midianite traders, came by, Joseph's brothers pulled him out of the cistern. So it's a good thing, right? They're getting him out. And they what? Sold him to them for 20 pieces of silver, and the traders took him to Egypt. They sold Joseph for 20 pieces of silver, which is not a good price, by the way. This was a deal for these traders. I mean, there's no amount of money you want to get sold by your family for, but 20 pieces of silver was cheap. And just like that, everything that Joseph knew was gone. His family, gone. His home, gone. His language, his culture, gone. His dreams, he thought were gone. They're all ripped away in a single moment. And what's crazy here is that Joseph didn't say a single word. No protests, no arguments, no cries for help. We don't have any sort of prayers recorded. It's just silence. And I think for many of us, that's what the middle feels like. Not just silence from us, but silence from others. Silence from God, that we don't have any answers. While you're doing your best to stay faithful, the middle is where you can't really feel God's presence yet. Well, when you're doing your best to lift things up in prayer, it feels like those prayers are just bouncing off the ceiling. When you keep showing up, but you're not seeing anything change, that's the pit. It's disorienting, it's lonely. It's honestly the place where a lot of people, they give up. They give up. But listen, just because you're in the pit, it doesn't mean that God is done. The pit isn't the end, it's the middle, and God does some of his best work in the middle. Because the middle is where character's formed. The middle is where the pride gets stripped away. The middle is where roots go deep, even when it seems like nothing is blooming on the surface. And Joseph doesn't know it yet, but in this pit, in this betrayal, in this silence, God's preparing a future for him that he could have never imagined for himself. That's the middle. Sometimes God removes the robe so he can build the character because he knows what lies ahead. And one of the hardest parts of Joseph's story is that he had to trust God in the dark. There's no explanations, there's no quick fixes. It's just faith that somehow in the middle of that pain, in the middle of that betrayal, that God was still with him. And maybe that's where some of you are right now, caught in the middle of something that doesn't make sense. And if that's you, I want to encourage you, take a step toward God. Even if you don't have all the right answers, if you're in a pit right now, don't panic. God hasn't walked away. He's still right there. He's still working in the dark. He's still building something in you. And what feels like the middle of your breakdown may be the setup for your breakthrough. And as a pastor here at Central, I absolutely love, one of the things I love the most is just helping people discover God's purpose in their life, helping them see those breakthrough moments in God's plan for their life. It's one of the things I love about First Step. First Step is a place to be real, to ask hard questions, to start building trust in God who already sees the whole picture. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to be willing to take the first step, a next step. And what we love to do as a church is we love to walk those steps with you. And this next weekend, for every location, May 4th, we have an opportunity for you to jump in to First Step. I want to invite you back. It's really easy to sign up. You can go in your app. You can just hit First Step. It's one of the first things you'll see in the Central Church app. You can go out to the next step areas in the different lobbies. Our team will help you, but don't miss this opportunity. Keep taking steps towards God. The pit you find yourself in, you might not understand it. Joseph didn't understand it, but he still trusted God. And here's what's so great about Joseph's story, is that if we fast forward into the future, if we look at later in Joseph's life, decades later, Joseph is gonna find himself standing in Egypt in a palace, second in command over the largest nation in the world. He's gonna once again have favor and leadership. He's gonna be in charge, and he's gonna find himself face to face with these same brothers who betrayed him. He's gonna look at them and he's gonna say, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it all for good." That's where we're going. That's where we're headed. That's a spoiler alert. That's where Joseph's gonna end up, but we're not there yet. We're still in the pit. We're still being sold into captivity. And what Joseph has to be wondering right now is, can I trust God when I don't understand the plan? Which the answer to that is our third truth, that just because you don't see the plan doesn't mean God doesn't have one. Doesn't mean he doesn't have one. Joseph, he's sold into captivity. His brothers set up this scene to make it look like their brother was eaten by this wild animal. They're trying to cover their tracks. They don't want their dad to know what they did. So they bring this coat back. They bring this robe of many colors back to Jacob. He would have recognized it, and it's soaked in this animal's blood, but made to look like it was Joseph's blood. And then Genesis 37 ends with one quiet, haunting verse. It says, "Then Jacob, he tore his clothes and dressed himself in burlap. He mourned deeply for his son for a long time. His family all tried to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. 'I will go to my grave mourning for my son,' he would say, and then he would weep." What's that word right there? Meanwhile, the Midianite traders arrived in Egypt, where they sold Joseph to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. That's it right there. End of the scene. Chapter 37 finishes with no explanation, no closure. Just Joseph sold, taken, forgotten, and betrayed. But that one verse hidden in the middle there, that red word hidden in the middle, meanwhile, that has some power behind it, doesn't it? Meanwhile, while Joseph was being sold into captivity. Meanwhile, while Jacob was mourning for the loss of his son. Meanwhile, while his brothers were lying and covering their tracks. Meanwhile, that all this horrible things are happening. Meanwhile, God was already writing the next chapter. You see, sometimes God's plans, they don't start with clarity. Oftentimes, God's plans, they start with confusion. They start with heartbreak. They start with things that don't make sense. But just because we're confused doesn't mean God is. So when you're doubting, when you're waiting, when you're hurting, meanwhile, God is still working it all for good. You know, there's this story that I love. It's this kind of profound story. It's a true story. It's a story of Steve Jobs and his start at Apple. It's fascinating. Steve Jobs was the one who started Apple. He built it from the ground up. He built it into this company, a top company in the United States, and then you know what happened? They fired Steve Jobs. They fired the guy who started the company. Can you imagine that? Jobs says that it was like a punch in the face to him. It felt so humiliating, public failure, personal humiliation. More than anything though, he said it felt like betrayal. He said, how can you get fired from a company that you started? But here's what's wild about Job's story is that setback, what looked like the end, became the beginning of something better. He said getting fired from Apple, what it helped him do is it helped him rediscover his creativity. He went on to start 2 more companies in that time period, in that waiting, one of those companies being Pixar. And then Apple hired him back. They asked him to come back. And the version of Apple that we see today, the version of Apple that changed the world through technology, that didn't happen the first time. It happened after the firing. It happened after the betrayal. And years later, Jobs looked back and he said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backward. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. Trusting that those dots are gonna connect, that's faith. The one putting those dots into place, that's God. And you may not see the dots connecting right now. You may be standing in the middle of pain or betrayal or heartbreak, wondering what good could ever come from this. But what if God is doing his best work behind the scenes? What if the very things that you thought disqualified you is the things that he's using to prepare you? I can promise you, he's already placing dots in your future that will connect back to this moment right now. So if you feel that you're in a pit today, being betrayed by someone you love, or this is important, maybe you're sitting here today and you're the one who did the betraying. And you've just felt guilty this entire time, thinking you're too disqualified from forgiveness. I want you to know you're not. You're not. Grace and for forgiveness is available to everyone. But if you've ever felt like the chapter you're living in is heavy or silent or confusing, please hear me. The pit is not the end of your story. It's just a chapter. It's just a page, because the same God who walked with Joseph, the same God who redeemed this betrayal, the same God who brought purpose out of the pain is the same God writing your story.